Warning, warning, warning.
Why do conservative television shows and internet shows all look the same? Earlier this year, I took to social media and posted a series of pictures, all containing the conservative commentators of inflammatory programs. These hosts range from establishment Fox News talking heads to right-wing YouTubers making the YouTube face for easy attention. The commonalities were humorous but also quite striking. Why so many bricks? Do conservatives get 10% off bricks at Ace Hardware? You can't judge a book by its cover, and I am not claiming that conservatives secretly fetishize brick laying. I am only noting that the people involved in these shows have consciously made these decorating choices, and pretending that this look is mere coincidence might strain credulity. The performance of this aesthetic is a reflection of something related to their ideologies and even tastes, but not the tastes of the hosts. Instead, it is a reflection of the assumed tastes of the audience. This is not someone's living room. This is stagecraft. Stagecraft is common in politics. Presidents stand in front of long lines of American flags. Politicians of all stripes give speeches in front of historic buildings. It is not simply style, it is subterfuge and messaging. Particular genres of shows on YouTube can follow patterns, but these patterns are sometimes influenced by budget more than stagecraft. People wonder why so many YouTubers have bright blue, purple, and other multicolored lighting. The answer is partly related to the aesthetic, but also related to budget. YouTubers are generally do-it-yourselfers. Turning a studio apartment into, well, a studio is no simple matter. It's costly and time-consuming. Buying a bunch of lights is not all that expensive, and the darkness mixed with the lights can also hide any imperfections in the bedroom, den, or office in which the show is being recorded or streamed. Most of the big-name conservative shows on television and the internet do not have such low-budget economic concerns. Many of these shows are bankrolled by powerful investors or media groups, and I am not just talking about Fox News giving Sean Hannity his paycheck. Conservative investors and media groups are also funding hosts like Ben Shapiro. The media group that Shapiro co-founded, The Daily Wire, was backed by billionaire petroleum and fracking businessmen Dan Wilkes and Ferris Wilkes. The Daily Wire is associated with a number of other right-wing hosts like fascist commentator Matt Walsh, transphobic genocide instigator Michael Knowles, and low-tier Batman villain Jordan Peterson. Dennis Prager and everyone else who appears in PragerU videos are also well-funded. PragerU is technically a non-profit, but they have millions upon millions of dollars in funding. Dinesh D'Souza, Dan Bongino, and Steven Crowder are paid a lot of money to be on Rumble as opposed to YouTube. Rumble is a video hosting service and cloud business service that also hosts Donald Trump's Truth Social. The right and even the far right are bankrolled on the internet by powerful corporations and individuals. For the most part, the left is not. Billionaires generally don't give a lot of money to people who think that billionaires should not exist. With this in mind, we can reasonably conclude that the appearance of the average conservative show is not confined by a low budget. Therefore, these choices in mise-en-scène are more than economic. So, why do they look like this? What is their whole deal? Let's look at the commonalities and see if we can determine a pattern. Conservative news and talk shows tend to look like stylized doomsday bunkers, but that is not the visual that the producers of these shows are trying to convey. Many of the commonalities that tie together the overall appearance of these shows are meant to convey a performative masculinity. The target demographic, conservative white men, are meant to see this basement living room as a man cave. Years ago, someone described my former apartment bedroom as a man cave, to which I responded, "I don't do anything manly in there." It was not a man cave, it was an ordinary room with a computer for work. A man cave is not any room that a man occupies. A man cave has a certain barroom hyper-masculine aesthetic to it, and it's adorned with signifiers of a particular narrow vision of what a man is allowed to be. The most common man cave accoutrements include neon signs, bricks or old-fashioned paneling on the walls, knickknacks on shelves that the women folk are not allowed to touch, and weapons for viewing but probably not using. In days past, before people could more openly discuss their sexual orientations, euphemisms for being a gay man were pretty colorful. "Oh, you know what they say about Gary? He's a little light in the loafers." Or, "Have you met David yet? He's a friend of Dorothy." I once remarked to a friend of mine that if there were a colorful euphemism for being straight, it would be, "Oh, you know about Steve, right? Let's just say he has swords on his wall." A man cave has male-centered rules like no wives in the man cave or other rules that could be considered gendered in some way. Similarly, this manly aesthetic for conservative shows not only attracts male viewers, but comforts them and tells them that this is a safe space to be insensitive.
Understanding that rape is primarily a crime of, I don't know, you're going to say it's a crime of power. Okay, get it, whatever. It's primarily a crime of wanting to have sex with someone who doesn't want to have sex with you, and so you have sex with them anyway. The victims of rape would usually, not always, generally be those who are most desirable sexually, considering the crime.
Maybe like the 5s to 10s.
I mean, like you don't carjack a 98 Oldsmobile.
No.
And this, and it's always ladies like that who are claiming they're raped. It's always a blue-haired, would-be lesbian feminist who claim they're raped. As far as I know, not one Victoria's Secret model has been raped.
What happens in the man cave stays in the man cave. No girls allowed. If I can deviate for a moment here, but I promise this is related. In political theory, the left-right divide is not about more government or less government. That's only how it's explained in American politics by the Republican Party. The left-right divide is both historically and academically understood as a conflict between egalitarian politics and hierarchical politics. That's why the Republican Party, the party of allegedly small government, is even more interested in funding the US military and glorifying the police than the Democratic Party, because conservative support for the military enforces a hierarchy of nations, and conservative support for the police enforces economic and racial hierarchies. Republican opposition to social welfare programs has nothing to do with making the government smaller in some morally neutral and politically unprejudiced way. This opposition enforces economic and racial hierarchies too. Republicans are usually pro-life, which would seem to be a contradiction if they really believed in the government being small and unobtrusive, but the pro-life position helps enforce the hierarchy of patriarchy. Both major political parties favor policies that could be considered small or big government, but once you realize what the left-right divide really is, these are no longer contradictions. The right also wants to enforce what they consider traditional gender norms and traditional gender expression, not because of any actual conflict with the size and shape of the government, but because they are both emotionally and economically invested in these hierarchies, in this case, patriarchy and heteronormativity. Even if the demographic that watches conservative commentators can't tell you what these words really mean, they definitely agree with their enforcement for self-serving reasons. Wealthy conservative commentators in blue jeans say, "Don't worry, viewers, we're not going to talk about patriarchy in our man cave. Heavens no. We're just going to propagate its most pernicious aspects and pretend that the hierarchy was designed by God himself." Occasionally, a conservative commentator is not a straight white man. Dave Rubin is gay, but he practically falls over himself apologizing for this fact to his straight counterparts. Candace Owens is a black woman, but she tends to reinforce the same social politics, overwhelmingly favored by conservative, straight white men. For the most part, however, these commentators fit neatly into a specific demographic, and they are shamelessly trying to appeal to that demographic as well. I say shamelessly because the set, costume, and talking points are all meant to give the audience the feeling that this commentator is one of them, only better educated like Ben Shapiro, or with a bigger platform like Dennis Prager. These commentators don't just sit behind the bricks, they themselves are the bricks, and the bricks are themselves. Look at Ben going to Home Depot to buy a single piece of wood. That's what a real man does. Steven Crowder has a gun on his desk, just in case someone from those other neighborhoods break in and try to steal his coffee mug. Looky here, it's Tucker Carlson dressed like he's Paul Bunyan, and he's broadcasting from a hunting lodge. What a stud. This is performative, this is pandering, all that bad stuff, but this is also deceptive. These are not macho men characterized in the famous song. These are not construction workers. These are not the salt of the earth types. They are pampered, rich men who prefer their place in the gender hierarchy and prefer unmoving gender norms. They are pandering to men who have the same social politics but not the same everyday concerns. The rich are not the salt of the earth. They are the earth, and they don't care about the average man. They care about grifting the average man out of his money by telling him what he wants to hear, putting a hand on his manly shoulder and whispering, "Buy my t-shirt." Would you like to know who these people really are? You know those families who constantly remind people that their ancestors came to the United States on the Mayflower? That's Michael Knowles. He grew up in Bedford Hills, New York, a homogeneous hamlet for white Catholics, and his parents paid for his education at Yale. He trained as an actor because he wanted to be in show business. Put a pin in that one.
What number of sexual partners does the average woman have in her lifetime? And this is a study done in the United States and UK.
This is an anonymous study, we assume.
Yeah. It was a study with over 2,000 people.
What a hussy. 2,000 people, that girl? That's bad.
Number of sexual partners?
Yes, sexual partners in
Not
her
business
lifetime.
partners.
And this was people who identify as women, actually, is what it said.
Oh, people well, now you've just thrown a wrench into the damn thing.
Well, there's none that just say women anymore. They're all identified.
Ben Shapiro was born in Los Angeles, California. His mother was a big TV executive, and his father was a composer. His parents paid for him to go to a high-priced prep school and then UCLA. His connections got him a job at a global law firm called Goodwin Procter, but he left to pursue his dream of being famous. He wrote some books and started producing movies because deep down he wanted to be in show business like his mother.
Well, folks, I just got back from the theaters seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm about to review both of them. I'm going to tell you which one of these is the best blockbuster of 2023 and which one is maybe the worst.
I bet he loved our movie, right, Ken?
For those of you who can't wait that long, I'm going to give my review of the Barbie movie in the most Oppenheimer fashion.
What the Run.
Tucker Carlson was born in San Francisco, California. His father moved him to San Diego, where he attended a private school that was basically considered the best one in the city. I'm seeing a pattern here. Anyway, his father certainly had the means and connections to do so because his father was a United States ambassador and served as president for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So, show business, what the heck? Alright, let's keep going. Dave Rubin started his career doing stand-up comedy and interning at The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Steven Crowder started his career as a voice actor on children's animated television series Arthur. What is going on? Okay, Matt Walsh was a morning zoo radio talk show host. Greg Gutfeld considers himself a comedian. Dinesh D'Souza is a film director, and Joe Rogan was an actor. Jesus Christ, wait, was Dan Bongino ever in show business too? Nope, no he wasn't. He was a cop, so fuck him anyway. Conservative commentators are not salt-of-the-earth people in plaid shirts living in log cabins. They are mostly white men with well-to-do parents and or kids from show business families who took a wrong turn at Albuquerque and became this instead. If you can't be famous, you can always be infamous. Now, those who fund conservative media have a different plan, but in the end, it's still all about money. The oil tycoons and other billionaires who fund conservative media want to move the Overton window further and further to the right to ensure right-wing victories for their politicians of choice. These politicians can then cut their taxes, further deregulate the state's relationship with capitalism, give them the inside scoop on new proposed bills, and do other nice favors. Conservative media, funded by conservative capitalists, is a long con, or an investment in a future payoff. Statistically speaking, men are a reliable, socially conservative voting bloc in the United States, especially white men. In 2016, men overall voted for Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton by 11 points. White men voted for Trump over Clinton by 15 points. The numbers were a little different in 2020 with both male candidates, but Trump still received more votes from men overall than Joe Biden. White men voted for Trump over Biden by 12 points. I'm not saying all white guys are conservatives. I'm a white guy and I'm not a conservative. I'm only saying that we statistically trend that way because we benefit from unjust, coercive hierarchies. Capitalists know this. That's why they fund these bros sessions. To close this out, I would like to speak to any conservatives watching this. All I can tell you is the obvious truth. Rich conservative commentators do not have your best interests at heart. They are poverty cosplayers, desperately trying to sell you on their corporate candidates for purely economic reasons. They are lying to you about encroaching threats from people who don't actually have much power in society. The candidate that is enforcing a social hierarchy that feels right to you is also the candidate enforcing the economic hierarchy that is making you pay too much rent every month. This is a ruse. Stop falling for it.